Top tier air sim has never been worse. With the introduction of the ASA radars, we have seen a horrible meta take hold of top tier air. My opinion, it's the worst meta I've ever seen, and it's been coined the Iron Dome meta. It requires zero skill. All it means is, do you have more missiles than your opponent, and can you maintain a head-on position and shoot all their missiles down while they are defensive? Depending on how this meta progresses, I really do think it has the potential to ruin top tier air across the board for both sim, RB, arcade, tournaments. It does not matter. This video is going to be going over what the meta is, how it's conducted, and the implications for the game moving forward if this persists. We're also going to have a discussion on hopefully how this can be fixed and how we can assist in getting Gaijin's attention and bringing light to this issue. This is not a bug. This is a quote-unquote feature. I do not know a better way to explain this meta than to show you. This video is provided by Squishface from his channel. There's a link to his channel in the description. Please give the video a like and a thumbs up. Now, if you don't play sim, you might be wondering, what the hell did I just watch? So essentially, this Su-30 SM2 had been known for shooting down missiles the entire game. And the only way to deal with him would be to pressure him with a bunch of missiles and then maybe try and force the merge. Essentially what happened there is Squish knew that ahead of time, so he spammed him with a bunch of missiles. He shot down every single one. Squish then forced the merge by staying in the notch and notching all of his missiles and then flaring the R-73s at the end. When the Su-30 SM2 realized, oh man, I can't beat this guy, he passed him at about Mach 1 and then immediately J'd out. That SM2 didn't need to move at all. He was able to fly in a straight line, shoot down every single missile, and then push his opponent into the merge. If the Eurofighter Squishface was just some random player and maybe doesn't know how to force the merge via notch, he's cooked. He's gonna not know what to do. Maybe he goes cold and he's just gonna eat a missile into the ass, right? The SM2 has more missiles than the Eurofighter. Simply, if he's fresh and has full missiles, on paper, he can just win every single head-on missile engagement. Generally speaking, what a missile joust, duel, whatever you want to call it, looks like at top tier is a lot of changing positions and changing hands. You launch on your opponent, and then they return fire. You both go defensive, and essentially whoever can defend and return to the offense fastest starts gaining position on their opponent. If you can repeat this process multiple times, you eventually get your opponent into a position where you can force them defensive the entire time and then either force the merge with them or just kill them if they get over aggressive. In order to do this, you need some resemblance of skill. You need to be able to dip into the notch quickly. You need to be able to keep eyes on your opponent or at least toggle your radar in a way that watches them the entire time. You need to be able to turn in quickly if you have a missile that has a gimbal limit like an AIM-120 and get your missile off and then dip into the notch again quickly. You need to know when to be offensive and when to be defensive. Maybe bait your opponent into a closer range shot. Maybe you have R-77s or Micas and you can fire from the notch, or you can fire from a position of more defense to where you don't need to give up position and turn in for a launch. It is essentially a game of chess. It's a game of positioning, right? There is skill involved in it. Yeah, it's missile combat. Yeah, you're just clicking buttons, but objectively speaking, you still need a resemblance of skill and gameplay knowledge in order to make it work against a good opponent. What we have here is essentially just point missile, shoot missile, and then El Bozo. If you don't have enough, you lose. There is really no needed skill involved other than maybe some quick microing of your radar screen. Now, I did some testing. I played some RB for a bit, and I wanted to see maybe is this a problem that isn't just isolated to Sim, and unfortunately, it seems to be that case. Fortunately for RB, it's not really a problem, and it makes sense why it's not, right? Because RB is a bunch of players, 16v16, everybody has at least 6 to 8 missiles, right? And there's missiles going all over the place. If you're taking the time to shoot missiles down, and you use all your missiles on shooting other players' missiles down, the first 5 minutes of the game, you're going to be out. And you either need to go RTB, you've essentially done nothing for your team, and the game continues to play on. And now your team has just lost a player, either to rearming, or you just have to multipath. So strategically speaking, it doesn't really make sense to shoot each other's missiles down in RB, at least for the majority of the matches. Now, what I've found out is it really only affects game modes, or at least fights that are isolated 1v1s, 2v1s, 2v2s, etc. So let's run a hypothetical, right? You're in an RB game and you're down to 1 or 2 players on each team, right? If you were to locate the enemy, right, and say you're in an SM2 or a GE or an F-18E and you have 12 missiles and your opponent is in a Eurofighter or a Gripen, all you need to do is just be quick on the draw and shoot his missiles down, and you can kind of just push him uncontested. Now, there is another area in which this meta does have a huge negative effect, and that is the official esports of War Thunder Air. For those that never heard of him, MeganFox3 is an RB YouTuber who goes over a lot of tactics and tech tutorials. You've probably seen his notching shorts. He does a phenomenal job at explaining things in a technical manner and going over how systems work in the game. He's someone I recommend often to my viewers because he does a phenomenal job at teaching and explaining what's happening. Now, another thing that Megan does is he participates in the official esports of War Thunder. For the most part, the lineup in this esports for Air has been relatively the same for the past year or so. You can expect things like an F-16C, a Gripen C, Su-27SM, J-11B, things of that nature, really kind of 13-7 for Sim. This is obviously a hyper-competitive game mode, right? You can think of it sort of similar to Sim in the level of competitiveness, right? There's a lot of isolated fights, and there's a lot of individual engagements. And obviously, this is a high-skill area, right? This is the essentially cream of the crop, the top players for Air. And would you believe me if I said they added planes like the 15GE, the J10C, and the 18E, and who would have guessed they had serious issues in the test phase during their esports for exactly what we're discussing. Players essentially just flew in a straight line in the head-on and shot down everybody's missiles when they would take the GE and the 18E. They had a discussion after a few rounds, and there was a resounding ratio in favor of removing these planes because this meta was essentially just negative skill. It didn't matter. As long as you had more missiles, you could essentially press your opponent indefinitely. Now, let me be clear, I'm not saying we should change the gameplay of the overall game space just because of tournaments. Tournaments is essentially a byproduct of the game as a whole, right? We don't want to make changes to the game for the sake of tournaments. But I'm using this as essentially justification showing that, right, it's a problem, and it can be a problem when introduced into the main game space. But let's talk about the game space for a minute. War Thunder is a game of progression, right? The grind, that's what everybody's always talking about, right? How grindy this game is, and oh, I gotta grind out my X plane or tank or whatever. I gotta play this event vehicle, or I gotta play the game to get this event vehicle, or gotta do the battle pass. Everything is just super grindy. We all play War Thunder, we know how grindy this game is. But that is part of the business model of this game. That's why we play it for the most part, right? There's obviously some people that like to stay at World War II or mid-tier or whatever, and more power to them, right? But for the majority of players, I think the goal that we all have here, right, is to grind out to top tier and research those high tier vehicles in whatever tree you enjoy the most, right? We need that carrot on a stick, right? And once you've completed a tree and you've realized that, oh, this is what's waiting for me when I get to top tier, I just get all my missiles shot down, and I've trained, or I've worked hard, or, you know, I've at least gotten good at the game, right? Obviously this isn't a marathon, right? We're not doing like hard cardio training or anything, but there is a level of progression when it comes to skill level, and a lot of people take pride in that. And when they get to top tier, they want to feel rewarded for that. And if they're met with just people shooting all their missiles down and forcing them defensive, and make one mistake and you're dead, and if your plane has less missiles than the enemy's plane, then you just, like, get fucked, right? Like, I really struggle coming up with reasoning and justification to explain to people, like, why this isn't something that we should be doing as players, right? Why we shouldn't be participating in this. Because let's think about it. It is just easier to do, right? If you have more missiles and you can just shoot your opponent's missiles down, why have to worry about taking position and defensive actions and working on that, or learning things, when you can just shoot missiles down, right? That is objectively easier. And I don't have a counter for that. Logically speaking, right? If you just win an easier time, then that's what you do. But again, like, if you are trying to get better at the game, and that's something like maybe you take pride in when you win a fight because you outplayed an opponent, it's just not healthy for this to be so common as it is. Essentially, my reasoning is just my sportsmanship. That's it. That's all I really have to say for people. And it really frustrates me because I don't really have a counter to this. I don't have a counter argument. The more it happens, the more people are going to get demoralized, and the more likely they are going to participate in it. And it's just a vicious cycle. And the cherry on the top is this is absolutely purpose-driven. This is a feature. This is a design choice by Gaijin. The ground SAMs, when they got added with the next-gen ground SAMs and all that, they added the ability to essentially shoot down all the munitions, right? I mean, it's been around for a little bit, but that whole implementation of the radar screens and interactions really kind of solidified that kind of gameplay mechanic. And whatever, you know, ground RB, I don't play ground RB, so I'm not really going to speak on what is good for their game space or what's healthy for it. But what I can say is, in air, it is horrible. And I don't even want to get into the discussion, is this realistic or not? Honestly, dude, I don't give a fuck. Is it realistic? Who cares? Is it reasonable for this to actually happen IRL? Don't care. This is something where we need to take a step back from, is this realistic? Is this something that we should add because it's realistic, or something we should keep because it's realistic? We should think about, is this healthy for the game? Is it good to have for this video game in which we play? Not, is it realistic? And I really do think the answer to that is no. This isn't a healthy game mechanic. It removes the need for skill. It removes the need for a player to progress in how they play and how they learn with new tactics and new game mechanics that get added. And it's only going to get worse with the next update, unfortunately, if nothing changes, because with the next update, you're going to be able to toggle between munitions and vehicles on your radar. You'll be able to essentially tell, your radar will tell you, is this a missile, is this a munition, or is this a plane, right? It's only going to make it easier to do. And I'm not really a dev, obviously, so I don't really have a lot of good suggestions here either on like how to implement some sort of fix or change. I mean, from what I understand, like RCS could be a thing, radar cross-section, maybe changing the way that radars interact with missiles from planes, or even maybe some sort of proximity fuse differences for if you're launching on a missile or a plane or whatever. Because if RB is going to maintain the whole Iron Dome thing with ground SAMs, I mean, that kind of makes sense, and I feel like it's a ground game mode and there should be an emphasis on ground. Again, I don't play ground, so I don't want to insert my opinion on how their game should be played or how I think it should be played, but what I'm getting at is I don't want to change something for them, right? I want to change what affects our mode more. And honestly, man, I just really don't have very many good answers or options. So what I'm going to be doing is breaking my boycott of the War Thunder forums, and I'm going to be using it as intended. I'm going to be leaving a link to a forums post in the description of this video, and I encourage you to go to that post and offer up suggestions. Now, everybody that knows my content and interacts with me on streams knows my opinion of the War Thunder forums. I dislike it vastly. I am going to put my personal opinions aside, and I hope you do the same. If you're coming from this video, please, if you're going to go there and leave a comment and you're going to be part of a productive conversation, please do so. Be kind, be polite, don't call each other names, don't be the typical forum dweller, just give some suggestions, be productive, and let's try and get Gaijin to understand our opinions of this issue and why we think it's such a big problem for our beloved game mode of War Thunder Sim, because let's be honest, we're not very big. A community in Sim's always been small, and it's only getting smaller. Yeah, we bring in a lot of people from the live streams, we get a lot of people into the game mode, which is awesome, and I'm very proud of that. But if it continues down this route and top tier, that carrot on the stick, no longer is enticing for people to play at top tier Sim, we're going to be hemorrhaging players. We're going to be down to, you know, like 13-7 and below. And I mean, that's still a vast majority of the BRs, but you understand what I'm getting at, right? Top tier, again, is that end goal for people. And it's where a lot of people play Sim. And if we lose a lot of people, which we are, it's not going to be good for the community. And I just want to reiterate one more thing before I call it. I do not care if this is a realistic feature. I've seen so many conflicting information of, is this something realistic that would happen? Can plane radars of these era pick up missiles? Can they not? Should they be able to? The radar cross section of an A-120 is actually the size of a bus. Again, the answers to all of those, in my opinion, are 100% irrelevant. I do not care if this is a realistic feature. If it is, I do not care. This is a feature that I personally believe needs to be removed or heavily nerfed for the sake of the game space as a whole. But that is enough ranting and explaining this horrible meta. I doubt you'll see me be playing top tier as long as this thing exists. My top tier experience has really just been boiled down to playing it on live occasionally to showcase somebody who asks, what is the Iron Dome meta? This used to be my beloved bracket. Top tier was always my favorite, and I still really enjoyed 13-7 and 14-0, but anything higher, I just can't be asked to play it anymore. But that is all I got for this video. Like I said, guys, if you want to help contribute in a productive manner to the conversation, follow the forums post link in the description of this video. Go leave a good comment. Get productive conversation going. Be polite. Be kind. Don't be that typical forum dweller. Just spark a productive conversation. That's all I ask. But I will catch you guys on the next one. If you want to catch me live, obviously drop a sub, leave a like on this video. There's also a link to the Discord in the description. Great place to know when I'm going live. Great place to know when I'm dropping content. Also just a cool place to hang out in a cool community and a great place to learn Sim as well. But peace.